What's up, guys? We're about to check out the Nakamichi Dragon 11.4.6. So I'm going to show you around this room. The homeowner's got a really incredible room. He's got Sonos right now. We just did some demos. My first time checking out the Sonos Arc, I believe, right? And very impressive, man. So I'm super excited to see what the Nakamichi Dragon is going to do. I'm going to take you around the room to show you what he's got right now. And then we're going to set up the Nakamichi Dragon. I might film some stuff in between. And then we'll try to get you some demos and I'll give you my thoughts on, the Nakamichi Dragon. But make sure you stay tuned to the channel because I'm going to have more content on the Nakamichi Dragon. And I'll see you in the next part of this video.
All right, let me show you around the room before we get into the Dragon. I just want to give you kind of a reference of what his system is like before. So he's got the Sonos Arc and got a chance to listen to this for the first time. And I got to say, I was very impressed with it. Like, very convincing, mostly impressed by the bass that it outputted. But he's got the Sonos Arc and, he's got some consoles. He's got a Twitch. He's got looks like he's got a PS5 and an Xbox Series X, and then you see the Nakamichi Dragon center channel that's laying on the floor there. He's got an 85-inch TV, Sony, so you can see the scale with the TV and the Sonos Arc. And then I think we're going to check out some subs. Yeah, so he's got 2 subs with the Sonos Arc. Again, those things hit pretty hard. His room size, I believe, is 15 by 20 with 10-foot ceilings. And then you can see the Sonos Arc rear surrounds next to the mounted Nakamichi Dragon rear surrounds. The Dragon absolutely dwarfs the Sonos. And then he's got some multiple beautiful illuminated posters, movie posters. He's got some steel books on the back wall, trilogies, and then he's got a couple of acoustic panels. So the room is not really acoustically treated much. I think that's all the panels that he has. And then there's another look at the Sonos. So he's got it on a stand, and I believe originally he was thinking about putting the other speaker, the Nakamichi Dragon, on the stand, but he opted for mounting. And there's just some more wall art that you got there. And then we have some beautiful seats. I don't remember exactly where he got them, but on the back row, he's got 4 seats. On the front row, he has 3. And the back row, the seats actually have risers attached to them. So he opted for that as opposed to building a riser in his theater. And yeah, it works great. You can see over the front row just fine. And, when you first sit down in the chair, your feet are pretty much dangling. But it works really good. Very comfortable seats. Really nice space that he's got there. He's got kind of like a dark purplish paint. And then he's got, I think, a grayish color, as you can see there on the ceiling. So right above his TV, the ceiling is vaulted, as you can see, and then it goes to flat. So again, the Sonos sounded very, very convincing. So I'm curious to see what the Nakamichi Dragon is going to sound like. If the Sonos sounded really good, then the Nakamichi is just going to sound that much better.
All right, guys, here's the Nakamichi Dragon. This is the back of it. It's pretty sweet. This sucker is huge. It takes up the whole width. Pretty much, so that's an 85-inch TV that he's got, and it pretty much takes up the entire width of the TV. So this is the back of it, and then it's going to be kind of hard to show you guys, but the ports are right. I don't know if it's going to focus. All right, guys, so these are the HDMI ports. It's in a really weird spot. It's kind of hard for you guys to see it on camera, but you've got 4 HDMI outputs or inputs. So the very back, you've got an HDMI eARC. So that's the one that's going to plug from your TV to the soundbar, or to the Nakamichi Dragon, so that you can get, your Dolby Atmos and DTS-X. You've got 4 HDMIs there. And then on the other side, you've got a couple more ports. And then on the other side, it looks like you've got a couple opticals, it looks like. And then a USB, looks like your power. And then, I don't know if there's another yellow thing here. It's kind of hard for you guys to see. But plenty of ports, so you should be pretty good. and you've got eARC. So if you run out of ports, you should be able to just plug directly into your TV and it'll send the audio back through the Nakamichi Dragon. So that's the back of it, and then we'll show you the front. All right, guys, there it is. The Nakamichi Dragon 11.4.6. This thing is huge. So you've got speakers over here. You've got your 3 drivers, so your left, your center, your right. And then I believe there's, I don't even know where all the speakers are at, but you've got some on the top. So let me show you the top. And he actually has the limited edition. So he was one of the first 500 to buy one of these, and he actually got it before they raised the price. So he actually got it a little bit cheaper. And then this little plastic thing, not sure what this is, but let's take it off. ASMR. So I guess that's a sensor. It's a pretty big sensor. I'm assuming that's what it is. There it is. He's got it on these nice little speaker stands. Raise it up a little bit. So we've got we've showed you the rears. So now that's really all that's left is just to hook up everything, get everything hooked up, and then turn it on and probably do like a settings and set everything up. So catch you back in a few minutes. And here's the Nakamichi Dragon remote. Pretty legit remote. You've got your TV HDMI 2, 3, HDMI 4. You've got Bluetooth, an optional output, auxiliary USB, music, movie, game, night. You got your DSP button. So pretty cool. You can go in there and configure this thing. Supposed to be able to go in there and just like deep dive and really tailor in all the settings that you want. It's basically like an AVR. You've got your home buttons, info, stop, return. You've got your up arrows, up, down, left, right, enter, play, pause, skip, forward. Then you've got some controls for bass, volume, and you've got a plethora of other stuff. So you can configure the center channel, surround sound back, CR, TR, SS, SB, surround back. So I guess that's surround side, top right. I don't even know what all these are, but pretty cool remote. And we'll let you know how everything turns out once we actually start configuring this thing. All right, and here are the subwoofers for the Nakamichi. So these are pretty big. Like compared to his Sonos subs, these are massive. They're not like the biggest subs. Obviously, there's bigger subs, but for something that's, you know, a soundbar on crack, these are pretty legit subs. So that's kind of the front. Let me show you the sides. All right, so there's your side port. So it looks like that's about a, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 inch port size, but each sub has 2 woofers in them. So you've got a total of 4. So, you know, that will do your 11.4.6. But there's the woofer. Then let me show you what the back looks like. All right, so there's the back. You've got your power inlet, and then you've got your power switch. So on the back it says 11.6.4 subwoofer, 110 to 240 volts. Looks like we've got 50 to 60 hertz, 100 watts. So you got 2 of these. I think for right now, for the purpose of this video, we're going to put them up front in the left and right. And then, you know, when he gets really into where he wants to place them, he may put them, you know, left, right, in the back, or opposing corners. But I like that these are, they're big, but they're also small. So it's not going to take up a lot of floor space, and you can pretty much put these things, you know, anywhere that you want to. You can put them behind your couch if you want, like for near field. I really like the design of these. They went up instead of wider, so that gives people a lot more options as far as, you know, footprint. All right, guys, we are about to boot up the system for the first time. We have everything hooked up. We've got an Xbox Series X plugged up to it. We've got a PlayStation 5 plugged up to it. And we've got a Blu-ray player. He's got some other things, but those are the main priorities right now. You can see we got our 2 subs up front, and then behind me, which I already showed you guys, we have the surround channels. So when you boot it up for the first time, it's supposed to do like this crazy like demo that it does. I think you can repeat it later, but we're going to try to record that for you guys so you can see what it's like when you boot it up for the first time. I'm excited. We did some demos with the Sonos Arc system. It sounded amazing. We were getting, I was experiencing stuff overhead, and stuff in speakers that where there are no speakers. It was pretty impressive. That was my first time experiencing Sonos, so I think that this thing is going to blow that thing out of the water. Hopefully it lives up to the hype. So let's go ahead and boot it up and show you guys. Okay. That Sonos storage. All right, guys, this is my first reaction. We just watched the race scene from Ready Player One. Man, this thing is legit. I'm not even sitting in the main listening position. I was sitting on the right side, on the front row, and the race scene where the biggest thing that I noticed was Kong when he enters in. So the ceilings here are about 10 to 12 feet tall. I legit heard Kong standing over me, running behind me. He was like 12 feet tall. Absolutely phenomenal. I don't know what they're doing with this thing, how they're doing it. And mind you, this is straight out of the box. We haven't touched any settings. We were just looking at the remote. We didn't hit surround sound. We didn't hit movie, nothing. It's playing Dolby Atmos. Man, it blows anything else out of the water. The Sonos was good, but it can't touch this. So this again, we haven't even dialed it in. We haven't done any settings. We haven't deep dived into anything. This thing is legit, and I can't wait to play around with the settings and really get this thing dialed in. We just threw the subs up front. We're gonna play around with some of the placement, but man, if you're thinking about getting this thing, it is absolutely 100% legit. My first reaction. We're gonna do some more demos for you guys, but I just wanted to give you my first reaction while I'm still smiling because I can't believe that this thing is able to do. It lives up to the hype, pretty much. So, yeah, we'll give you some more demos.
We got units headed out there now. Give us a fire. We're fast. And I'll probably walk this far.
All right, let's dive into some of the settings. So the Nakamichi Dragon has a pretty in-depth settings menu, which is basically kind of like an AVR. I mean, I don't think you're going to find anything this sophisticated on another soundbar or whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I mean, you can pretty much go in here and customize the Nakamichi to your heart's desire. It is a little bit limited in some aspects, which I'll talk about later, but for the most part, I mean, they give you a ton of options to go in there for surround modes. You've got audio setup, you've got advanced audio settings. I mean, we really went through here and looked at it, and we were very surprised at how much Nakamichi allows you to go in and set distances, set audio levels. I mean, just all kinds of things. And yeah, it's pretty much like an AVR. I certainly haven't seen a soundbar that has not only a settings menu. Some soundbars don't give you anything. They basically just have some on-screen or controls on the actual soundbar. This actually has an on-screen display that lets you go in and just really deep dive and customize. Here you can see the audio setup. You've got just a host of things that you can change: bass, treble, equalizers, quad subwoofer setups, like all kinds of stuff. And then, you've got your surround modes, you've got advanced audio settings, surround speakers, lip sync adjustments, subwoofer crossovers, DTS-X dialogue control, which I'm very curious. There's some receivers that don't even have DTS-X dialogue control. I believe with that, you're supposed to be able to go in and like lift the dialogue. I don't know if it's actually active. We didn't play too many DTS-X dialogue or DTS-X tracks, and I don't even know if that's active on other AVRs. But yeah, like I said, most AVRs don't even have that function yet. So pretty cool that they have it. And then you've got some video settings here. It will upscale to 4K from 1080p. So I don't know of any other soundbar that can do that as well. And then you've got just a bunch of different other settings that you can go into. You got calibration. You've got a system settings tab. I mean, this thing is pretty impressive. For a lot of people say like, oh, it'll never replace a channel-based system, which is true. I don't think any soundbar will ever truly replace, a dedicated home theater, full-blown, separate channel, separate speaker layout. But this is bridging the gap pretty well between soundbar and receiver. It's impressive, guys. So, I want to know down in the comments what you guys think about this settings menu. Do you think that this is enough? Obviously, I can't show you everything because the video would just be too long. But so far from what you've seen, are you happy with the Nakamichi Dragon settings? Do you think that this is enough? Do you think that, they need more settings? If you have the Nakamichi Dragon, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are on it. If you've gone into the settings and deep dived, I mean, look here, you can set distances. I mean, it's something that really hasn't ever been seen before on a soundbar. And I know I keep calling it a soundbar, but I don't even really know what you classify this as because it's much more than a soundbar. I mean, for a soundbar to claim 11.4.6, I don't think anything else is going to touch this thing for a very, very long time. Very impressed. Can't wait to hear more about it.
Okay, I've seen and heard some truly incredible things since I started my YouTube journey and started going to expos and trade shows. But I don't think I've ever seen or heard as much hype from a product as I have with the Nakamichi Dragon. And I gotta admit, there was quite a bit of skepticism brewing inside about a product that is pretty much a soundbar on steroids with only 2 surround back channels and a couple of dual 8-inch subs claiming 11.4.6 channels. I mean, that's more than my home theater. And I just installed the 16 channel RMC1, which sounds awesome, but we'll save that for another future video. And to add to my skepticism, There's basically no real reviews about the Dragon on YouTube. So when my coworker of 15 years told me he bought the Nakamichi Dragon 5 months ago, I knew I had to experience and review it for myself. So shout out to Manny for letting me experience the Nakamichi Dragon in all its 11.4.6 glory. First, let me say that no soundbar, or whatever you want to classify the Dragon as, is never truly going to replace independent speaker and channel separation. That being said, the Dragon is the closest next best thing that truly bridges the gap between soundbar and a full-blown home theater speaker system. For starters, the soundbar or center channel or whatever you want to call it is stinking huge. It's sitting below an 85-inch Sony TV, and the Dragon pretty much has the same width as a TV, so that should give you some scale. And seeing that it supports a staggering 17 channels with 2 dual subs, totaling an 11.4.6 configuration, the Dragon is meant to bridge the gap between flagship soundbars and high-end AV receivers and processors. Setting up the Dragon is pretty much a breeze. The longest part of setup is going to be mounting your rear surround channels, which was done prior to me arriving. Beyond that, you just get your center channel and subs in place, hook up your sources to HDMI, plug in power to each speaker and sub, and the Dragon does the rest. It finds all the speakers and connects everything wirelessly without the need of the end user. Pretty impressive. For reference, the Nakamichi Dragon is replacing a Sonos Arc that I also got to experience prior to setting up the Dragon, which I'm glad because I had a solid reference point. Also my first time hearing a Sonos system, I was delightfully surprised. The Arc had very good detail and clarity with solid separation and pretty impressive Atmos simulation. Most impressive for me though was the bass that the Sonos Arc was outputting. So if the Sonos Arc sounded that good in a somewhat acoustically untreated room, I couldn't wait to hear what the Dragon could do, straight out of the box with no changes to settings. And oh man, the Dragon instantly destroyed the Sonos Arc in every way possible. When you first turn on the Dragon, it was supposed to play a few demo tracks that are stored directly on the Dragon itself, but we forgot to turn on the sub, so I think that threw off the boot up demo. Thankfully, there is an LCD touchscreen atop the Dragon that you can manually engage the demos by pressing a single D button, which either stands for Dragon or Demo or both. Surely by now, you know that any demos you watch on YouTube is not a perfect or fair representation because, one, YouTube compresses the mess out of your videos and you're only hearing a 2-channel version. So just keep that in mind when you see demos. Not only did the Dragon immediately exceed my expectations, it did quite a confusing number on my brain. The channel separation on the Dragon is mind-bogglingly incredible. One of the demos that comes stock with the Dragon is the Dolby Atmos demo. And when the Dolby Atmos demo played and the bird started flying around the room, the bird starts flying in the left front corner of the room and pans around the entire room from front to back, flies across the back wall and up to the front right corner into the center channel. And you can literally follow the bird along the left wall, across the back wall to the right wall, up front on the right wall to the center channel with 0 gaps. Which brings me back to the tricking my brain. There's no physical wide speakers, no physical surround speakers, and yet I could follow that bird all around the room as if it were in the room with me, and I could tell you exactly where that bird is in the room at any given time during the demo. In fact, I think the Dragon might have done a better job on that demo than my system does. The rear surrounds are what Nakamichi is calling omni-motion surrounds that use air motion or AMT tweeters with rear and side drivers that emanate surround sound in multiple directions. In fact, all the drivers on the surrounds and center channel are AMT tweeters. Now, speaking of ceiling effects, I think this is my favorite aspect of the Dragon. Height effects were once again brain exploding. Unbelievably impressive. Just to give you some scale, the ceiling in the room is exactly 10 feet, and I know because I measured it with the distance laser measurer. We played the Dolby Atmos Leaf demo, and the leaf was not only floating around us, but also above us in a very realistic fashion. Not to mention you could hear the air rushing above you amidst the crunching of other leaves in the tree. In the scene where James Bond and his girl are surrounded by his enemies, and effects are flying all over the place, hitting the roof, side doors, windows, the floor. Church bells are ringing, and the Dragon reproduced this scene perfectly. It sounded pretty much exactly the same as it does on my system. And because the ceiling is 10 feet tall, where the ceiling in my theater is only 8 feet, the Dragon produced a massive bubble of sound that made you feel like you were inside the car with Bond. I demoed tons of Atmos scenes from movies, but my favorite had to be the race scene from Ready Player One. When Kong starts running behind you, it legitimately felt like Kong was 10 or 12 feet tall running behind me. I haven't experienced that scene like that until I heard it on the Dragon. I looked at Manny and I just pointed up. I didn't even say anything. He looked at me and shook his head and started laughing like, yeah, I heard that too. Let's talk about the bass. Oh my goodness. Man, does the bass hit hard on the Nakamichi Dragon. And that's due to not one but two subwoofers with dual opposing 8-inch drivers. Literally the first demo that we played, the Dolby Atmos demo, right after, both of Manny's kids ran in the room and was like, Daddy, what was that? We both started laughing and I said, did they know you were swapping out your Sonos Arc? He's like, no, they don't know anything. So the fact that the kids knew nothing about what we were doing and noticed something was different was truly a highlight. But yeah, the bass on the Dragon is visceral. Those dual woofers in each sub are no joke. We had the left and right subs in front of the room flanking the center channel, and this configuration did make the bass sound a little bit boomy, but Manny also told me that he originally had both of his Sonos subs in the same spot, and he also would get booming bass, so he's just going to have to play around with the sub placement to find the smoothest response. Every track we played that had any type of substantial bass, the Dragon just destroyed his room with deep bass notes that I'm sure didn't make his neighbors too happy. And we weren't even listening anywhere near reference level, and on some content, we had to turn it down for our own ear safety. Another feature that truly bridges the gap and really separates the Dragon from even the most high-end soundbars is the settings options and customization that's available to the end user. This thing has a settings menu the likes of an AVR. You're not going to find anything remotely this in-depth on any soundbar. You can also use your phone and, I assume, tablet to connect to the Dragon via Bluetooth if you don't want to fiddle with the supplied remote and on-screen menu, and you just want to use your phone or make changes on the fly while watching your content. Now, the Dragon is not perfect. There were times on certain movies that I've played numerous times in my home theater where Atmos effects were clearly and distinctly present, and the Dragon either had a mad type of Atmos simulation or I just didn't notice much of any height effects. But honestly, that didn't really happen too often. That being said, everything we watched was straight out of the box with no tinkering of the settings, so the system wasn't even dialed in. And speaking of dialing in, the rear surround channels have aimable up-frying drivers that you can swivel left or right to really fine-tune your setup in your space. So I have no doubt that the Nakamichi Dragon is only going to sound even better once it gets dialed in. We also noticed that right out of the box, the treble was more on the harsh side. But again, you can go into the settings and adjust the treble to how you like it. However, the treble didn't take away from the insane dialogue clarity that the Dragon was outputting from the center channel. Those AMTs have depth and gravitas, especially when listening to something like David Attenborough. And even on Netflix and streaming content, the vocal reproduction of men and women was it was excellent. Even more impressive was sitting on the back row. The dialogue maintained every nuance, and detail and clarity was not in any way lost, and somehow the SPL level sounded the same as it did up front. And while we're on the subject of dialogue, I would like to see more control over SPL levels for individual speakers or drivers. Right now, if you want to increase or decrease SPL levels, you can only do so in pairs. Want to increase the left channel's SPL? Then you also have to increase the right channel's SPL. Same for the rest of the speaker pairs. And as far as distances, you can only set the distances in relation to the Dragon itself and not the main listening position. So instead of measuring the speakers from the main listening position, the Dragon wants to know the distance from the walls to the drivers on the center channel. And for rear surrounds, it's a little different. The distance is calculated from the rear surround speaker to the center channel and not the main listening position. I also brought over my copy of the SACT, the Spatial Audio Calibration Toolkit by TechnoDad and Joe and Tell, as I wanted to see how accurate the Dragon was with channel separation, so we popped the disc in and went straight to the channel callouts.
Surround back right. Surround back left. Surround left. Front wide left. Front height left. Front height right.
And by the way, if you want to purchase your copy of the SACT, you can use my discount code Cowboy10 to get 10% off. And I'll make sure to leave a link in the description. But to no surprise, the Dragon reproduced every ground level channel flawlessly. But when it got to reproducing the high channels, the Dragon surprised me. I could hear Technodad's voice right above me. Now, I wouldn't say it was as convincing as a dedicated in-ceiling or ceiling-mounted speaker, but it did an incredible job at making me believe that the sound was emanating directly above me. And again, I have to say, this was straight out of the box with no calibration. So once the system is fully calibrated and Manny finds the perfect placement for the subs and upfiring direction, the system is only going to sound that much better. Oh, and just as a side note, for video, the Dragon has 3 HDMI inputs that support HDMI 2.1, so you're going to get 4K 120 and 8K 60, VRR, Dolby Vision, HDR10 with video upscaling capabilities. So, does the Nakamichi Dragon live up to the hype? My experience and answer is a resounding yes, and then some. The Nakamichi Dragon sound went beyond the walls and made the room sound bigger with authority, precision, and visceralness that lesser soundbars can only dream of recreating. What Nakamichi has done is truly an incredible feat, and I can't wait to see what they are able to accomplish in their next iteration. But for now, if you're on the fence about purchasing the Dragon, or you don't have the space for a dedicated multi-channel home theater setup, but want a better experience than your typical soundbar, I would 100% enthusiastically recommend the Nakamichi Dragon. Yes, it's pricey, but when you consider that there's truly nothing else like it on the market, I mean, we're talking about literal game-changing technology. I don't see any other product coming close to matching the Dragon anytime soon. It is truly in a league of its own. So that's my review of the Nakamichi Dragon 11.4.6. I want to know your thoughts based on this video, or if you have the Nakamichi Dragon at home in your setup, if you have one of the 500 limited edition Nakamichi Dragons, let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. Do you think this is eventually going to replace your standard home theater with, speaker channels and Dolby Atmos, stuff mounted on the ceiling, in the ceiling, on the walls? I want to know your thoughts, so let me know down in the comments. If you'd like to join my Patreon page, I'll leave links in the description where you can go check that out. If this is your first time visiting the channel, make sure you hit the like button and hit the subscribe button if you're not already. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, no matter where you're at on your home theater journey, make sure you enjoy it. For Hatoraid Cowboy Cinema, I'm Hatoraid Cowboy, and I'll see you guys in the next video.